Last January, when our family arrived here in Naples during the lockdowns and restrictions and the China virus nonsense in Canada, the first thing that I did with my friend Gordon Quinton, Gordon's the insurance agent, entrepreneur who transformed his business from $1 or $2 million to $40+ million today. He did it by focusing 70% of his time on marketing. He was a private client of mine for a handful of years, and now he is enjoying life, working part-time, running a $40 million insurance agency in Rochester, New York, and Naples, Florida. So I was only here for maybe 1 or 2 days, and Gordon said, "I'll pick you up in half an hour at your place." So I was like, "Okay, where are we going?" He says, "I'm going to show you around town. You've never been to Naples." My family, when we arrived last year, we picked Naples. We had never ever stepped foot in this city before, so everything was brand new. Good morning. So Gordon picks me up half an hour later, and we get in his vehicle, and where's the place we drive to? We drive right to the Rolls-Royce dealership. And it was a Sunday, by the way. It was a late Sunday morning. And he pulls in, and we get out, and he says, let's go look at some vehicles. So I love this stuff, right? Like I love going through gated communities with 40, 50, $100 million homes. I love looking through Forbes magazine at the Forbes properties all over planet Earth. You know, $1 billion properties, $500 million properties. I've always loved the tours of Beverly Hills when we were kids. I've taken the tours of on the water of all the affluent neighborhoods to see the homes on the water. I've always loved putting that stuff in my brain. So this was great. We spent about 45 minutes just walking around outside the dealership. It's Sunday, so nobody's going to bother you. There's no salesperson working on the Sunday. So we were able to look at a whole bunch of Rolls-Royce cars, and good morning, there was nobody else even near the dealership. But that simple idea is something that 99% of men watching this video will never ever take my advice with, and that's what I call badass wealth attraction. Get around it, smell the leather. Get around it, smell the leather. So, wealth attraction is a very misunderstood concept and principle. It's an actual fact. It's not a theory. I mean, I've used wealth attraction in my life for 31 years to become magnetic to money, to become magnetic to opportunity, to become magnetic to prosperity, to become magnetic to abundance. It's not woo, 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 but so many pretend experts and fake gurus have made a living selling the misconception that, well, if you think it, it'll happen. And that was the bullshit that our girl Oprah sold for years with the book The Secret. Those were her latest gurus, and that again was the same. If you think it, it'll be it. If you think you're rich, you'll be rich, or you think you're thin, you'll be thin, that kind of stuff. And it was just, I mean, that's the biggest missing ingredient in that is you can think something all you want, but if you don't take daily actions, tiny actions towards it, I mean, nothing's going to happen, right? As the great Gary Halbert said, motion beats meditation. Motion beats meditation. It's one of the only criticisms I have with the great Napoleon Hill's, one of my favorite books, Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is one of the most powerful books that an entrepreneur like you needs to be reading one time per year. But also your teenagers need to be reading it. Your adult children need to be reading it. And Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is one of the books that should be in every school in Canada and the United States. It never will be allowed, but it should be in your home and it should be read. But the one criticism I have is with the title where Hill says, Think and Grow Rich. And I believe a more appropriate title, a more accurate thinking title would be Think, Act, and Grow Rich. Think, act, and grow rich. Thinking doesn't make it happen. Behavior alone even doesn't make it. The two are combined. Thinking and behavior, you need to have the correct thinking and you need to have the correct behavior. The two of them together are what makes power and makes something magnetic. So it's an interesting, wealth attraction gets a bad name because of gurus and experts and fuzzy-headed academics hiding on a college campus who've never sold anything, never made any real money, never built anything, never won, are selling it. You know, fantasy sold as reality. The wealth attraction I'm talking about is thinking it and behaving. As the great Dan Pena says, get around it, smell the leather. Get around it, smell the leather. What was I doing? What were Gordon and I doing when he took me to the Rolls-Royce dealership? We were getting around it. We were looking at the Rolls-Royces. We were reading the things on the windows, how much they were priced at, 580,000, 820,000, 900,000. Just mind expanding. And it's interesting because you're placing that abundance in your mind, you're stretching your mind, you're cracking open your mind, and basically you're getting around it and you're smelling the leather. Smelling the leather is being around something. I remember my dream was always to fly on a private jet. That was my dream 10 years ago. And I was working hard in the insurance business and we had a nice life. We had a couple of homes. We had a couple of vehicles. We were in a financial safe position for the first time. We were in a safe harbor position. I didn't have to worry about money anymore, and I was still enjoying my work in the insurance niche. But there was one goal that I had set, and it was to fly on a private jet. And that was the big leagues for me, right? Like it's $40,000, $50,000, but more than the money, it was just this in my mind was like, look at the people that fly on a private jet. I mean, they're the top CEOs, the top entrepreneurs. They're the top 1%ers. You know, what kind of a person has their own private jet? What kind of a businessman flies, skips all the business class and skips the herd or the cattle class? What kind of a businessman do I have to become to skip all of that stuff, the security, the lineups, the potential illness, and just book and charter my own jets? So I put that in my mind and I put a photo up. I used to tear them out of Forbes magazine, and I'd have a picture of the inside and the outside of a jet. And I would look at this picture every day on my wall where I worked in my home office. I had a tiny picture of it in my journal. So a couple of times a day, I would smell the leather of the inside. I could see myself sitting in one of these jets. I could feel it, I could smell it. I could see myself walking out to it on the runway. I could see myself driving up to it. It was, you know, get around it, smell the leather, like Dan Pena says. And it took a decade. It took a decade of, you know, this is how much money I'd have to have. This is how much money I'd have to, and it really, my mindset had to move from scarcity to abundance. I didn't mind spending money on this or spending money on that, but when it came to a private jet, my mind was closed. Like most businessmen, my mind was closed. I was like, well, I couldn't do that, or that's not for me. Any of these limiting beliefs that we arrive at falsely in our childhood, our parents, our teachers, our associations. Well, I mean, I'd never be wealthy enough to do that, or I could never be on a chartered jet, this kind of nonsense. So it took me 10 years of working on my mindset to finally arrive last year and say, you know what? We're going to move to Naples in the next 21 days. I said to Krista, charter a private jet for us. I said, we're not doing any of the China virus airport stuff. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not standing in line for 7 hours. I'm not going to get sick being around thousands and thousands of other people. I'm not going to go through all the problems of, you know, cattle class security and immigration and all this other stuff. I said, book it. I don't care what it costs. And I'm buying time. And that was the shift in my mind. And it's always been for anything I've done, is the shift in my mind went from how much does this cost? That's how the 99%, that's the wrong thinking for anything. You know, how much does this cost? That's how losers think. Winners and champions say, how much can this make me? Or how much time can this save me? Or how much can this transform my business and my life? And as soon as I asked the right question, the wealth attraction question, as soon as I cracked open my mind, everything changed. I wasn't, you know, being a cheapskate and saying, you know, oh my God, it costs this much. How would I ever make that back? I went to say, I said, you know, we could be in Naples in 3.5 hours. It would take us 2 days to get here in cattle class. We'd have 2 or 3 flights. Commercial flights there is no commercial flights into Naples, so you have to fly to Fort Myers. So then we'd have to drive. Instead, wheels up in Ottawa, 3 hours and 15 minutes later, we're in a private, we're in 85-degree Naples with our dog Clifford. So my mindset shifted to how much time can I buy? And I literally bought 2 days of work, 2 days of hours, because when you think about it, that would have been 2 days that I was traveling. You can't do anything when you're traveling except travel. So instead of 2 days and worrying about our dog and all this other stuff, wheels up and wheels down in 3.5 hours. That's the power of buying time. That's the power of not wasting precious, finite time. And that's the power of wealth attraction. If I hadn't got around that, if I hadn't smelled the leather, if I hadn't had the photos of a private jet, my mind, I would have never been able to conceive that. I would have had my limiting beliefs. I would have had a scarcity mindset. And over 10 years, I kept asking myself, why can those fucking guys, charter a jet? He's no better than me. He's no smarter than me. He doesn't work harder than me. He's not more successful than me. You know, why not me? I kept asking that question. Why not me? This is something I want to do. So start asking yourself the question, why not you? Why not you? Is there something wrong with you? Are all those top 1%ers smarter than you? No, they're not. I've met most of them, and there's nothing special about most one percenters except work ethic and focus. Is there something that they're better at? Maybe, but it's nothing that you can't train yourself. Like, start asking yourself the right question. Instead of a scarcity mindset, you need to crack open your mind and ask the right questions. What are the areas in your life you can buy time? Where can you buy time? And wealth attraction to me is about getting around it. It's about smelling the leather. I remember the first time I was in a limousine. I think it was maybe 15 years ago. I'd never been in a limousine. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And I envisioned myself. I saw it. I was like, wow. And then I never had a vehicle. I never had a vehicle that wasn't beat to shit. And finally, I just started visualizing that I wanted to buy a Cadillac Escalade. So I'd go to the dealership, I'd go online, I would build a black Escalade, I'd do the interiors, I'd get around it. I would smell the leather, literally, mentally. And lo and behold, 10 years ago, I was able to buy my first black platinum Escalade. And I bought 2 or 3 of them since by being around it, by smelling the leather. That's wealth attraction, not woo-woo, Oprah. You don't have to put in the work, just think about it. Put up a picture and you'll be happy. No. I put up the picture and then I put in the 10,000 hours. So that's the missing concept. It's really important with wealth attraction that you have congruent thinking and congruent behavior. So, I tell my guys, get around it and smell the leather, get around wealth. And most people, most guys, it's too simple or it's too easy and they don't take my advice. And I'm just like, okay, your environment is everything. I talked about that the other day. Like, there's nothing more powerful in your life. There's nothing more magnetic, whether good or bad, than the people in your life, your associations. It's absolutely magnetic. And secondly, is your environment. They go hand in hand, right? You are your environment. You are your standards. You are the average of your 5 friends. But most people don't take it to heart, right? They just parrot it. I hear so many guys say, yeah, you're the average of the 5 guys you hang out with. I'm like, why do you continue to hang out with losers? Why do you continue to have an environment that doesn't support you? Yeah, I'd like to lose 40 pounds, but your fridge is full of beer and carbs. Oh, I'd like to quit smoking, but you hang around other people that smoke and you buy cigarettes. Oh, I'd like to quit drinking the poison of alcohol. Well, you have alcohol all through your home. Your wife buys it, you buy it, you wonder why. You still drink alcohol. Yeah, I can't write everyday marketing. Really, show me your home office. Show me where you work. Show me your work set out. Show me your laptop. Show me your environment, and I'll show you why you're not making it happen in your life. So, smell the leather, get around it. Get around it, smell the leather. There's so many ways. Like we picked Naples. We came here 2 years ago for the winters. We'd never stepped foot in Naples. We've been all over Florida. We've lived in the Keys, rented homes there. We've been in Sanibel Island. We've lived up in Georgia on the ocean, but we had never ever been to Naples. So after talking to my friend Dan Leonis and of course Gordon Quinton, we just decided that this was the place that we wanted to get around, and this is the place where we wanted to smell the leather. It was that simple. It was an abundant, affluent place, all kinds of wealth. We had read a few articles where Naples is, if not at the top, usually at the top, #1 quality of life in America. That's big for us because back in Canada, we come from a country, we come from an area where highest quality of life in the country. So we're used to being around abundance. We're used to being around success. We're used to being around positive environments. Good morning. And that's exactly what we got here in Naples. We were, as soon as we put our feet on the ground, it was like, wow, this is a place that I want to be around. This is the environment I want to be immersed in. And this is a place where I can smell the leather. In the coffee shop, I sit beside billionaires. I'm not kidding. Dan Leonis introduced me to a guy last year, and he's like, you know, the guy's got his shorts and t-shirts. The only thing you could say is he had a Rolex on. And he's retired. He's in his late 60s, early 70s. And he's buying a $3 coffee. And he's like, you know, billionaire, not self-made, but from scratch entrepreneur. And it's all around the vehicles. Like, I'm constantly showing my daughter, Emery, check out the Ferrari, check out the Lamborghini. Everywhere we go to dinner, check out the, you know, the Rolls Royce. Check out, it's just endless. So she's getting that into her mind too. Like, what kind of a person is able to drive one of those? How would I be able to someday afford that? And it's like mental therapy every day. And I can't recommend it enough. It's important, the books you read. You know, you read about abundance, you read about success, you read biographies and autobiographies. One last tip I'll give you is I get physical magazines. So we went into the Barnes and Noble bookstore the other day before we went out to dinner. And these restaurants in Naples are beyond belief, right? Like, some of them have a 2-month waiting list. But once again, smell the leather, be around it. The meals, in most cases, are just outstanding. So we go into the Barnes and Noble, and it's just a massive bookstore. So what do? I go to the magazine rack where all the physical magazines are. People say, oh, nobody reads magazines. Well, the people in this millionaire and billionaire bookstore, there must have been 3 aisles of physical magazines. So the people that actually have some money, 45 and above, what they are doing is like me, reading an actual paper and ink magazine. They're not sitting on a pad somewhere trying to read a free article. So I bought $100 worth of magazines and took them out with me under my arm, a couple of books, but just more of it, get around it, smell the leather. And I subscribe to magazines like Forbes, magazines like the Robb Report, anything and everything that's abundance based, like, so when we were in the Barnes and Noble store, what magazines did I grab? I grabbed, you know, Florida real estate. I grabbed a cigar magazine with the Fox guys from NFL Fox Sunday, with Terry and Jimmy Johnson and Howie Long and all the guys on the front. It's a cigar magazine, affluent though. In there's the huge Scotch ads, the whiskey ads, the $10,000 cigar ads, a lot like Forbes, except even better. And then I got a health and fitness affluent magazine, where they're talking about, you know, these home gyms that these millionaires and billionaires are building. And it just goes on and on. And so I picked up about 12 physical magazines. And I'll go through these, I'll tear out sheets of paper, I'll tear out photos. But you want to talk about inspiration and motivation. You want to talk about being around it and smelling the leather. In these magazines, all of them have private jet ads. They have islands for sale. They have $50 million homes for sale. They have, you just name it, you name it. And it's just mind-boggling for me. It's mind-expanding, not boggling. Mind-expanding. And it makes me think bigger. Maybe I'm thinking 10x and I'm like, smarten up, Michael. You need to think 25x. 25x when it comes to your marriage. 25x when it comes to your physical health, 25x when it comes to your marketing, 25x when it comes to your income. Maybe I need to help 25 million men instead of a million. And that's how I feel and how I think after being around these affluent magazines. Just amazing. And I'll subscribe to all those magazines, so I'll continue to get them every month in my mailbox. And it gives me an opportunity to leaf through them, tear out articles for my mastermind members, and share some of this stuff in my writings, and just be around it. Be around it and smell the leather. So that's my message for today. If you need help changing your mind from scarcity to abundance, if you need help transforming your world and your limiting beliefs, if you're tired, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're done, if you've had enough of the quiet desperation life, then I can help you 3 ways. Number 1, you got to read my book first, my physical book. It's a game changer. Get around it, smell the leather. NoBullBook.com. The name of my book is How to Not Get Your Ass Kicked in Business and Life. Pretty simple. If your ass is getting kicked every day, whether it's your marriage, your money, your marketing, your children, your mental health, if your ass is getting handed to you every day, get a copy of my book, NoBullBook.com. And I'll send you one of these badass, look at how I don't have it on today, it's too cold, Florida cold. Badass black t-shirts. So NoBullBook.com. Secondly, when you've done that, you need to join my monthly paper and ink newsletter. It's my most popular product. It's called my Michael McLean World Building Newsletter. And every month I write about my business, about my marriage, about my relationship with my daughter, my physical health, my mental health. I write about all of these different things that I'm going through, my wins, my losses, and I share them in paper and ink, my marketing, what's working, what's not. And it's like $3.24 a day to subscribe. And I ship you a physical newsletter to your home every single month. That's badassletter.com. Badassletter.com. Lastly, if you're looking for more help after that in building the world of your dreams, for God's sakes, build a business and a world you don't have to escape from all the time. That you don't have to, at the end of the day, have 3 or 4 drinks to forget, or you need to live for your next vacation. Build something that's seamless, that you love, you're passionate about, and it makes you an elite man, a hero in your own home. Lastly is my Badass World Builder, badassworldbuilder.com. That's my 12-month world building coaching program. It's a 12-month mastermind. There's no traveling, there's no flying, it's online. We meet as a group, as a brotherhood, every second Wednesday for 2 hours online. I do some one-on-one coaching. We do hot seats with everybody's business, and it's 12 months. And it is something like $24, $25 a day. When you think about it, it's 10 grand, which is chump change for a mastermind. You don't have to travel or anything, but you get to be around it. You get to smell the leather. You get to be around and associate with me for a year, get my one-on-one coaching by email and fax. You get to be around other elite husbands, fathers, businessmen, community leaders. So you get your investment back in the first 60 days. Are you kidding me? And I'm not going to be keeping that price at that 10 grand for the rest of the year. I'm going to be 2xing or 3xing that price before the end of this year. So the doors are open for another day. You can jump in, go to badassworldbuilder.com and apply. I'll look at your application. If you're good, you're good. If you're not good, if I'm not your coach for you, no problem. I'm happy either way. Whether you decide to participate doesn't make any difference to me. I'll still be out here tomorrow, God willing, walking and talking and chasing my next championship and mission. So that's it for today. Remember, it's so important. 99% of you won't take this advice, but every 3 months, every 4 months at the most, I get around it and smell the leather. I love being at the Naples private terminal. I love being around it. I pick up the magazines that they have in the private lounge. I love taking those magazines and reading them. They're all full of abundant top 1% ads for businesses like High Point University in North Carolina. All of these places, boats and yachts and planes and helicopters. I love going with Gordon to the different dealerships. The Rolls-Royce dealership is my favorite here. Get around it and smell the leather. I love doing that tour last year. We rented we chartered a boat with a captain, and he drove us, not a normal tour, and he took Krista and I and Emery and Gordon and his wife Marie, and we just took the afternoon and went around to all the rich and famous celebrity homes. I don't give a shit about celebrities. I mean, I've been around sports celebrities my whole life. In every locker room you can imagine. I don't put anybody on a pedestal that's not a good father or a good husband. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting around the abundance, getting around the opportunity, getting it in my head that if these dummies can do it, then you can do it. That's the biggest thing that happened. When I was around some athletes and I was around some celebrities earlier in my life, I said one time, most of these guys are tomato cans and they've still done well. I'm like, you know what? He's no better than me. He hasn't got anything special. He's not a better marketer than me. And it inspired me to get off my ass and do something. I'm like, why not me? I kept asking myself that question. It's a great question. Why not you? Why don't you have your own jet? Why don't you make 7 figures a year? Why don't you have the #1 store in America? Why aren't you in the best physical shape of your life at 55? Why don't you have a marriage that's on fire? Why aren't you father of the year? Why are you not a hero in your own home? Any of these other guys do anything special? No, they're just grinders. They just show up and do the work every single day. So that's a great thing about being around it. And that boat tour was so valuable because the guy would tell us every house. He's like, John Bon Jovi lives there. And he goes, that's his yacht. And, he'd say, we see him here all the time, pumping his own gas in Naples. Jersey guy, right? And then he says, that's where the late Don Shula, that's his place. Or there's where Iron Mike Ditka, that's his place. We saw the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has a home here too. And just a whole bunch. Good morning. Just a whole bunch. Like, I was like, really? And he was like, Mary Kay, that's 3rd generation pink home, $50 million pink mansion on the ocean. And that was Mary Kay, the late great Mary Kay. I guess her granddaughter lives there now. She'll be busy running the company into the ground as the 3rd generation. If the 2nd generation doesn't run it into the ground by entitlement, the 3rd always takes care of it. You'll see that with some of the big dogs that we think will always be around. You think Amazon will always be around? You think Google will always be around? Do you think all the big tech guys will always be around? They're already going to be disappearing. There's a couple of kids working in a garage somewhere right now to destroy all of those companies, and there'll come a day when those 2 kids destroy those companies. It's just amazing. The law of the jungle. So smell the leather, get around it whenever you can. Make your environment about abundance. Put that kind of inputs into your mind, the things you read, the magazines you study, the places you eat. all about abundance, all about get around it and smell it. If those are your goals, whatever your goals are, it's different for every man. I'm not telling you what to do, but if I want something as a goal, like being on a private jet, then I had to get around it. I had to smell the leather. I couldn't just talk about it. I had to get around it and smell the leather. Like Mike Tyson says, you have to be champion before you can be champion. I love that quote, Tyson. You need to be champion before you can be champion. The simplicity and the wisdom in that quote is staggering. And if you asked Tyson about what he means, he goes, hey, I needed to train like the champion before I was the champion. I needed to eat like the champion before I was the champion. I needed to think like the champion before I was the champion. I had to work like the champion before I was the champion. I had to, it just went on and on. My environment had to be like the champions or better before I was the champion. You have to be the champion. To be the champion, you need to first be the champion, become the champion. That's environment and association. So get around it and smell the leather. Get around it and smell the leather. That's it. Kick ass and take names this year. Come on, kick ass and take names. We need more of that around our children. We need that in our countries. We need that in our economy. We need that in our schools. We need that in our sports. Kick ass and take names. Kick ass and take names. I said that to my daughter every single day since she started her little dog walking business. Every time she's going to school, most parents would say, have a good day, or, drive safe. I'm like, fuck that. Be relentless. Kick ass and take names. That's what I tell my 10-year-old when she gets out of the truck. Kick ass and take names. Be relentless. I tell my wife when she drives Emery to school the odd day, I don't say, oh, have a safe drive. Fuck that. Are you kidding me? Safety fifth in our family. Safety fifth. Relentless first. Relentless first. Are you kidding me? The last thing I want is for my kid to be focused on safety. The last thing I want myself or my wife to be focused on is safety. Safety is for chumps. The person who plays it safe in football is always injured. The hockey player who plays it safe is injured and cut. The businessman who plays it safe is broke. Are you kidding me? Where that's all that we hear now is safety this, safety that. And I'm like, safety fifth. There's 4 things that I have long before that are way, way more important. And number 1 on my list is relentless. I tell my kid every day, kick ass, take names, be relentless. Be relentless. Safety fifth. Freedom, personal sovereignty first. That's it. 2 words that changed my life. 2 words that'll change yours. Be relentless.